How many of you know what the topic is for the month? And actually, that title, integrity, comes out of, for today, comes out of the monthly topic, which is be truthful in fact and motive. Now, as you know, there's usually a book of the month to support the theme, be truthful in fact and notice. And the title of the book is The Inward Journey by Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman. This book is a compilation of verses and poems and things that he wrote from many perspectives of consciousness, some with great levity, some with a kind of a deep sense of brooding, what I find about this is that the richness of it really allows us to be supported in diving deeper into our own understanding of ourselves as a spiritual being first. And so it's no accident that, that the title is The Inward Journey. And what I came to realize in working on this message that I want to share today is that it really is, living is, at its best, an inward journey. So can you imagine a world, or can you imagine living your life in a way where there was nothing else to know about yourself other than your physical experiences out in the world? So give yourself a moment to think of what that would be like, that your consciousness, your awareness has had no other contemplation or awareness of anything other than what you're experiencing right now. Now, okay. Now, I would call that hell. Because the imaginations of the human mind are really pretty much solely based on what we are experiencing and what we believe about what we're experiencing. Now, taking that another step further, what I believe about what I am experiencing in my life is based on something that actually happened a very long time ago, and maybe not even in this life, because I am birthless and deathless, and I'm moving through these planes of existence just as Nancy Gimbel is. And Dr. Holmes tells us in the Science of Mind textbook that we do come into this particular life experience that we're having right now with preconceived ideas and notions, with error beliefs. So when I say that what I'm experiencing today and how I feel about that is based on the past, who knows how long ago that was? And actually, it really doesn't matter. Because as Eckhart Tolle tells us, there's only now. And now is where the freedom is. And now is where the wholeness is. But not necessarily judging out here that becomes a reflection of my worth and my value, but doing the inward journey and turning within. Now, along with that, in inward journey of turning within, I believe, and this has just been my experience, but I believe that to be truthful in fact and motive means that I'm being in integrity. Now let me sidestep for a minute and just say that the definition of integrity from the dictionary and the definition from the science of mind are like this. Simply stated, the definition of integrity is the state of being whole and undivided. So when I am being honest in facts and in my motive, with myself, then I am moving into integrity with the true reality of who I am. Now, when I say the true reality of who I am, what words come to your mind? Love, spirit, honesty, pardon, compassion, being authentic, essence, infinite, boundless, expansive, creative, to name a few, and free. And so the science of mind point of view aligns completely, because we understand this idea of the state of being whole and undivided on the universal level. But we also know, because we're spiritual beings having a human experience, we also know that we are individualizing, or another way to say it is particularizing the infinite. And then we move out into the world with an experience of that. And so since God is equally present in and as all of its creation, each individual is an expression of integrity. Every individual is an expression of the integrity of its creator. We can move away from it, we can forget, and we do both of those things, plus many other, we come up with many other inventions to forget and to ignore who we are. But the integrity of our being, the integrity of our oneness with this universal infinite life that is whole, that is complete, that is lacking nothing, that is not divided from itself in any way, that is divinely, absolutely, always in order, balance, and harmony with itself, and only contemplates and knows its own nature. And then, sometimes I just have to go. And so, what happened? Creation happened, and all of a sudden, this pure potentiality, the infinite essence, love that word, the pure potentiality of creation, infinite potentiality, we can never plumb the depths of this thing, which is the reality of who we are. Now, we have awareness in the physical world. We have a body. We have each other to look at. We have experiences. That's the way that it's meant to be. I heard Reverend Michael this morning in the meditation say something to the, or in the circle out front, say something to the effect that, that this infinite spirit, these are my words paraphrasing, has released us, given us the freedom to move out and express in finite ways, in joy, in creativity. And so the call is constantly to return to the place of our infinite being, to return to, you know, some call it the Godhead, but to turn within to that place that is infinite, where we can travel in mind, where we can move, where we can imagine, where we can be open to our heart's desires. And all along the way, we never lose our individualized self. But as we move out in this inward journey and come to realize that we are so much more than that, that we're totally supported, that there's no way that our life can truly move out of integrity, because we are a part of evolution. So, the fact that for some of us, there was a time at the conscious level out in the world that we had forgotten, or we were not aware of this, and we did judge our value and who we were by our relationships, by how smart we thought we were, by how we were doing, by our financial success, by all the other things that the ego judges and limits. And no matter how much we accomplish, that darn personality limited belief that we're not enough, ego, you know, I love that, edging God out. That part of us has a wild, crazy imagination. And look at all of the things. Now we're moving into discerning, that we call good and bad. We have the right to do that. If I'm having an experience and I say, I don't like this experience. This experience does not feel good to me. That's my call. But knowing that I'm a creative being and that the call is to be in integrity, that when I come into integrity with the true nature of my being, that then I get to go within and be my own space traveler. I get to go within and find the part of myself that knows who I am, knows my heart, knows what's important to me, and wants to express it in the world. We've been given that freedom. Dr. Holmes says nature's storehouse is never empty. It awaits our recognition of it. The inward journey, it asks us to, it says, hey, I'm here, what do you want? How do you want it to feel? What's it gonna look like? Are you ready to try something new? Are you ready to experiment and move out? The question is, what do you want? And this question knows no age. If I may be so bold, I'd like to even use our beloved Nancy as an example and suggest the possibility that when one is at the door of leaving this experience and moving on to another, that question is still valid. That spirit, no matter where we are in our journey of life, or the thing itself, or how about baby? Like the song, ooh, baby. God can be baby. God can be big sweetie. God can be, this infinite spirit can be whatever you want to call it. But are you in love with it? Do you seek it? Is there a desire in you for it? Can you go to this place? When I say it, it's like all of a sudden it's something other than what we are. But then we have to remember that if it's in our own awareness, it's right where we are. It is what we are. So can I go there to this place in my awareness that is vast and infinite and unconditionally loving? Can I go there in truthfulness in terms of how I'm feeling as a finite being? Can I go there with what's hurting in me, or what feels missing? Can I go there with my needs and my desires and my insecurities? Well, I think we can. As a matter of fact, I know that we can. I know it. I absolutely know it because I've experienced it. Even to the point that I would say that there's a memory in this life of a moment of the deepest despair. And I wasn't thinking about going to this place of integrity, this vast, infinite, unconditionally loving, supporting, holding me, mirroring back to me who I am. I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking about how much I was hurting and crying about it and screaming about it and smashing a picture about it and just terribly upset and like going down the rabbit hole of this pain. And the further I went, there it was. I can't explain it. Sometimes we don't want to be honest with how we really feel because we think there's no coming back. But there is. There is always something there to hold us. Now, on a little lighter note, it's also a little bit about our perception. And so I'm reminded of this silly story of this group of frogs that were walking along in the woods one day. And they came upon this deep pit. Have you heard it? Yeah, it's a terrible story. And so they're walking along, and three of the frogs, because their focus of attention was somewhere else, not on their, inner GPS, they fell into this pit, and it was really, really a deep pit. Now, all the other frogs that were with them gathered around the edge of the pit, and they kind of thought they were being supportive, but they were just going, oh my gosh, it's so terrible that you're down in there. And oh, it is such a really, really deep pit, and you're probably never going to get out of there. Can't you see them? They're just kind of hanging over the edge of the pit. And in short order, one of the 3 frogs just laid down and died. He gave up. It's like, I'm never going to get out of here. Nothing's ever going to change. But the other 2, the ones up around, they were noticing, my goodness, those are enthusiastic little things. I wonder what they had for breakfast this morning. And they were jumping and jumping and jumping. And the frogs that were watching were laughing. You know, they thought it was pretty funny, but at the same time, they were saying, oh, don't even bother, you're never going to make it, and, you know, you might as well, you're going to get yourself so tired, it's not going to work out. And they noticed that every single time these frogs took another jump, that they were further and further until there they were, standing right there at the top of the pit with all the other frogs. They're just like, wow, you know, we should send you guys to the Olympics. But as they began to communicate with these 2 frogs, what they quickly realized was that these frogs were deaf. They couldn't hear one single thing that the choir was telling them. But they knew something else about themselves, didn't they? And so in actuality, they were in integrity with their true self, weren't they? Now, there are many, many things that we come up with in life to distract ourselves from our spiritual practice of meditation, of affirmative prayer that we call spiritual mind treatment, from being quiet, from listening to the inner voice. And one of the things that I find very, very compelling and that I ask myself about frequently comes from Byron Katie. And she says, whose business are you in? This is powerful. Because in actuality, she says there's only 3 kinds of business. There's God's business. There's the other's business, and there's my business. Now, there are definitely things, as I have worked with this, and looked down a list of many examples of what she says are God's business, my business, and others, someone else's business. There are some that are black and white and it's absolutely clear to me. There are some that at first I went, I have to think about that for a minute. Because I believe that the change that I make when I come into integrity in my own consciousness and I'm honest with myself about the nature of reality with a capital R, that I can be a part of a solution at a collective level. I don't have to go out and join, but that when I get in integrity with the truth of who I am, that my consciousness aligned with a collective consciousness can shift the planet. So we are all in this together. But the fact is that I know from my personal experience that a lot of the ways that I distract myself is by worrying about other people, by having doubts about other people's motives. Even little thoughts down to, well, that didn't feel very good. Maybe they don't like me. To, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be enough. And everything in between. Now that's my business. But the truth is that, as Terry Cole Whitaker, what you think of me is none of my business. What you think of yourself, that's your business. How you live your life and the choices that you make, that's your business. And if I don't like what you're doing, that's your business. If I don't like what my adult children are doing, or certain things that they say, or how they treat me, or I get all worried down the road of, well, if they do that, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, that's not my business. That's their business. That's between them and God. So who knows the Serenity Prayer? Would you say it? Somebody? Wow, a lot of you know that. I couldn't think of it this morning, so I just thought I'd ask you. Well, yeah, but the simple one. So my business is what I think about myself. I love Reverend Lloyd Strom's saying, he was co-creator of the co-creation materials with Dr. Marcia Sutton. And he says, I've come to the point that I no longer struggle with difficult people. Only struggling with difficult me. That's my goal. And then my goal is to not struggle with me. To love myself unconditionally. To remind myself of the truth of who I am. To go to the love of my life, my Creator. That place that I become one with and have a sense of myself, an understanding of myself, an appreciation of myself that just says, you go, girl. I've got your back. What do you want to do? I invited a friend of mine recently, because some of you know I love dancing. I've been taking a lot of ballroom dancing classes and stuff. And so I invited this friend of mine to go over to Chico Sports Club today for a dance, for this lesson, beginner lesson. And then I checked in with my friends, like, well, how's it going? Are you still planning on going this afternoon? And my friend said, well, yeah, so far. And so I asked about that. Well, you know, and pretty soon we're having this conversation about the scary stories that the mind tells. Now, obviously, my friend wanted to go. As a matter of fact, he's told me a lot of things about how he likes to dance. But this morning, he said, well, so far. Can you relate? And it doesn't have to be dancing, but what is it for you? Oh my God, the first time at the Paradise Church, that, I don't know where this came from, that, well, yes I do, that I got up on the platform from the chair. First of all, I knew I was going to be sick. Second of all, I couldn't think of anything that I was supposed to say, hot, cold, this and that, you know, your mouth and everything. And I came up and we had this thing called creative thought, remember? Creative thought. And so come up and give your creative thought. And it was always about, well, you know, how science of mind changing my life. Well, I said yes, obviously, because I had a lot to say about it. But I had never done anything like that. And right after it was all over, I don't remember a thing that I said. And Dr. John McEwen had to help me down to the chair. He did. It's true. And so, hey, so what? That's, you know, that's my story. That was my story. What would you be without your story? Huh?
Not as colorful.
Oh, well, but what would you be without the limiting story?
Free.
Yeah. Guess what? You already are. You already are. We choose. Dr. Holmes says God could not create a being that is free by right of its very nature without giving it the freedom to choose. You know, as a species, we have evolved quite a long way. You know, there was a time that we weren't even aware that we were thinking. We weren't aware of ourselves, but there was a self. And so look how far we've come from that place. But when we look at what is possible, the things that are possible for our planet, for our life, for being in collaboration, for healthy living, for a world that does not know disease, for a world that looks at other beings, no matter what they are, from rocks to plants to animals to trees to mountains to one another, and sees the integrity of this universal, vast, infinite creator in the other, to the point of wanting to bow down with humility to it, because it is the face of God seeing the face of God. This is possible. It is. I know it is, and the reason I know it is, and I know you know it is because I can imagine it. If you can imagine it, if you can see it, if you can feel it, if it does anything for you in terms of inspiring you and calling you to a higher integrity of being honest in what you speak and your motives, go for it. When we say it is possible to have a world that works for everyone, this needs to become more than words. In the section, in closing, in the section in the Science of Mind textbook on finding the Christ, I was reminded in reading this that Christ is not a person, that Christ is this principle. Christ is the one infinite, divine wholeness and goodness, the invisible nature of life itself that is absolute and indestructible, out of which we have come. Lost my place. And what Jesus did was to spend much time in contemplation in becoming one with this part of himself. And so in that way, he actually put on the Christ. He chose it. He spent time with this principle, with the love, the great creator and love of his being. He said, there's no separation. I accept it. I own it. To the point that he began to speak about himself in the first person. And occasionally he reminded us, I and the Father are one. And you too shall do things such as these, but even greater. And when he told the man, take up your bed and walk, he said it with such authority and conviction and integrity and realness from his oneness with that principle of truth that there was a direct communication to that individual. He got it. He accessed that part of himself that already was walking. He put on the Christ. We are the Christ. Truly, magnificently, wholly, completely, absolutely. From that place in consciousness, I look at each one of you and I am in pure love for who you are, for what you've been through, for who you are that I can only even imagine, and some I know more than others. I respect you. I honor you. This is a powerful community. And let's remember that what we do here and what we know and how we choose to live in the face of anything that looks like the opposite is a total game changer. I love you. I bless you. I know that as I do that, I'm loving and blessing myself. And I need to end. And so it is.